I got a remote shutter. Layers cutting my hair, and I gotta tell you, it's what I asked for, and she gave it to me, and she did a good job. But now that I have it, it's like, I don't think that's really what I wanted. Hi guys, welcome back in today's episode of Crue Trime. Crue Trime. This one is a classic story. It's a Halloween tale that has kind of shaped the way that trick-or-treating happens in the United States. You've probably heard it before. Let's be honest. This is the story of the Candyman. So I wanted to also show you guys my t-shirt. Look at this. Isn't this cool? I found this shirt from Murder Apparel. Not sponsored, but hey, call me. So Murder Apparel is an awesome merch company that has really cool Crue Trime style shirts, including this one that I just could not resist. So check them out. I'll see if I can maybe get a coupon code, dare I ask? If there is a coupon to be had, just check the description box down below. If you're interested in this shirt, I will also link it. If you love this kind of stuff, you're gonna love their stuff too. Okay. I'm trying to get my life together over here. I have no idea what kind of makeup I'm gonna do. Spoiler, you've already seen it because it's in the thumbnail. But we're gonna go on this journey together. I feel like I keep doing the same makeup looks over and over, and it's Halloween, so I wanna do something a little bit more fun and spoopy. The story is gonna be very rambly because it's kind of short. It's really responsible for a lot of things. It changed trick-or-treat in the United States forever. It sounds so dramatic, but it kind of was. Okay, so this is the story of the Candyman, Ronald Clark O'Bryan. Actually, there's a story from Texas, a serial killer named Dean Coral. It actually happened around the same time as this story. Maybe I'll cover that one too, but different Candyman. By the way, I get questions pretty often about where these headbands come from, and you can find them at the Dollar Tree. This particular one came in a multicolor pack at Target in the Halloween section. Check the description box. All right, let's just get to it. Ronald Clark O'Bryan was born on October 19th, 1944. So when this happened, 30-year-old Ronald and his wife, Danine, they lived in Deer Park, Texas, and they had two children, 8-year-old Timothy and 5-year-old Elizabeth. Ronald worked as an optician at Texas State Optical in the Houston area. He was a deacon for the Second Baptist Church, not to be confused with the First Baptist Church. He sang in the choir, and he was in charge of the local bus program. Those who knew Ronald described him as a model citizen, and his pastor knew him as a good Christian man and an above-average father. Ooh, that is light. I guess we're gonna do a very dramatic makeup today, so. On Halloween night, 1974, Ronnie O'Bryan and his neighbor, Jimmy Bates, wrangled their young kids out for a night of trick-or-treating in their suburban neighborhood. Well, we all know the trick-or-treat rules, right? Like, if the lights are on, it's candy time, and if the lights are off, nobody's home, or there's no candy, or they're Grinches, whatever. But you keep it moving, okay? Well, Ronnie and Jimmy, they're taking the kids, and as they were approaching one of these houses, the lights were off, but the kids ran up and knocked on the door anyways, and there was no answer. Of course. So the kids, scrambled on over to the next house on the block. My neighborhood here where I live, it's probably a little bit more urban, like city-ish, The parents on a Halloween night around here really keep the kids super close. It's a busy street and all that. But I can understand in a more suburban neighborhood that the kids just kind of like run off and leave the parents behind. Everybody's excited. I mean, when I was a kid and I was trick-or-treating, we were definitely like that, but nothing like too crazy. Sometimes we were like a whole house ahead of our moms, but she would catch up while we were on the porch catching that sweet, sweet candy loot. The kids got ahead, and when Ronald caught up to the rest of the gang, he said that dark house actually did have candy, and he pulled out a handful of like those big pixie sticks, like the full-size ones, like the 21-inch guy. You know what I'm saying? Pixie sticks, if you are somehow not familiar with them. It's a plastic tube that's like just filled with sugar. Well, Ronald gave one of those big Mama Jamma pixie sticks to each one of the kids. His two kids, Elizabeth and Timothy. Close. He also gave one to his neighbor Jim's kids and another to a 10-year-old boy that Ronald had recognized from church. Okay, so this photograph I'm gonna put on the screen here. This picture is not of Timothy and the other trick-or-treaters, but it's a reminder of the absolute horror of vintage Halloween costumes. Do you remember this? The plastic masks and the polyester, or sometimes they were vinyl. It was like a vinyl smock and a terrifying mask. That was the costume. Period. The night actually got cut a little bit short because it started to rain. It was like drizzling pretty bad. Side note, I don't ever remember getting rained out of trick or treat. This is how impassioned I get when it comes to trick or treat. It's a sacred night, okay? Sacred. Okay, anyways, I don't ever remember getting rained out of trick or treat. Like we would just put on ponchos and go. Didn't matter. We were going. Halloween was never canceled. It's a rain or shine event. Rain or night. Okay, so after they got home from trick-or-treat, little Timothy Bryan was allowed to eat one piece of candy from the Halloween haul, and he chose the pixie stick. The powdered candy inside was kind of like stuck in the tube, and Ronald helped him to like shake it loose and get it in his mouth. It's a plastic tube of sugar. You just cut the top off and just pour it into your mouth. You know this gif right here, this video? That's what happens after pixie stick. Well, Timothy said that it tasted bitter, like weird, so Ronald gave him a glass of Kool-Aid to wash it down. I looked up what day of the week it was, Halloween 1974, and it was definitely a school night. You gotta love some 1970s parenting, right? Like, sure, 8-year-old kids gotta go to school tomorrow, but how about let's eat 21 inches of powdered sugar right before bed? Great idea. It's Halloween! Let the kid eat his weight in sugar. Anyway, Ronald's wife, Dayneen, had gone to visit a friend after the kids returned from trick-or-treat, so that checks out. I'm gonna put on brows, because I'm too excited. I can't. I'm gonna do brows, I'll be right back. All right, so I'm a little hopped up on coffee. Don't misinterpret my excitement and caffeine rush for joy for the circumstances in the story, because we all know they're terrible. Okay, so remember, little Timmy has just housed down an entire pixie stick and then washed it down with a big cup of Kool-Aid. Well, his stomach is like immediately in an uproar. But it became like very clear that this wasn't just like upset sugar stomach. Okay, he was like vomiting and convulsing. It was serious. So of course, Ronald called for an ambulance straight away. That candy had to have been poisoned. An ambulance arrived very quickly. There was luckily already one in the neighborhood. They loaded up the extremely sick Timothy and headed to the hospital, but he was dead within an hour. Dr. Joseph Yahimchik, and I know I'm saying that properly because I checked. Dr. Yahimchik was the nearby Harris County Chief Medical Examiner, and he was called on that night right away to begin investigating because a child had been poisoned with Halloween candy. Well, once Dr. Yahimchik learned that Timothy had been suspected of being poisoned, he asked them, what did his breath smell like? A call to the morgue revealed that there was a scent of almonds on the boy's mouth. Cyanide poisoning. If you guys didn't know, that is a telltale sign of cyanide poisoning, is the very strong scent of almonds. Science. Okay, so the autopsy report proved that that hunch was totally dead on. Oh, sorry. Sorry to say that. He was correct in his assumption. The pathologist said that Timothy had consumed enough cyanide to kill 2 adults. Cyanide was found in fluids aspirated from his stomach, vomit, and in his blood. The top 2 inches of the pixie stick had been packed with cyanide poisoning. Holy shit, you guys. The scary stories of strangers tampering with Halloween candy existed even before this event, and this was it. Confirmation. So the rest of the pixie sticks, remember there were other ones. The daughter and the neighbors' kids and then the other kid from church, they all had the pixie sticks, right? So luckily they had all been recovered before any of them could get into them. Any of the kids could eat the pixie sticks. I'm bad at this. So whoever had tampered with the candy tubes had resealed them with staples, which is how they used to be sealed back in the day. The end of it would just get folded over and stapled. These days they're melted closed because it's plastic. Well, that staple actually ended up saving one of the kids that night because they had found that child in bed holding that plastic straw, but he wasn't strong enough to get the staple out to open it. Can you imagine wanting to eat a pixie stick so bad that you just fall asleep holding it? It's pretty relatable, actually. Ronald was working with the police, of course, and he went back to the neighborhood where the kids had gotten that Halloween candy so he could show them the house where they had gotten that poison pixie stick. But once they were there, Ronald couldn't remember which house it was. You know, he said all he could remember was that the house was dark and he'd only seen like an arm come through the door. He didn't even see the person. He did say that the arm was hairy, but the arm just like emerged from the door and handed out the candy, and that's all he saw. The police kept pressing Ronald, walking up and down the block 3 times until his memory was jogged and they found the house. Now remember, they had not had a long night of trick-or-treating because it started raining. They didn't even really go that many blocks. Why can't he remember which house it is? Well, once Ronald finally remembered which house it was, it didn't take long for police to figure out who lived there, who owned the house. It was a man named Courtney Melvin. He was an air traffic controller and he worked at Houston Hobby Airport. There's no time to waste. There's a dead child. So they went to the airport right to his work. He was on shift and they arrested him right there in front of everybody. Okay, so the community is like in a total uproar. The news of what happened had spread rapidly, and many parents brought in their children's Halloween candy to the police station. They wanted the police to check through it, make sure that there wasn't any other poison or worse. I mean, I don't know what's worse than poison Halloween candy, but it really seemed like a stranger had given out poisoned candy to kill as many kids as possible. Now, we can thank this terrible event for all of the candy taxes that we had to pay as kids. Remember our parents checking the candy first? They were taking all the Reese's peanut butter cups is what they were doing. Now remember, they've arrested this air traffic controller man from the airport. But once they got him into questioning, he had an airtight alibi. He was actually working that night. He was not home. There was nearly 200 other employees that could totally vouch for him. Additionally, his wife and daughter had been home that night, but they turned their lights off because they'd run out of candy. Also, they did not hand out any pixie sticks, let alone full-size 21-inch plastic tube pixie sticks. When police questioned the entire neighborhood, none of the homes had handed out pixie sticks that night. The chief investigator on the case started looking closer at Ronald. Why couldn't he remember which house gave the candy? Where did these pixie sticks really come from? Well, once they really started looking at Ronald, they found out that he was in serious financial trouble, like $100,000 worth of financial trouble, which, remember, it's 1974, $100,000 is a serious amount of money. It's the equivalent of $500,000 in today money. That's $500,000. Okay, so Ronald was actually delinquent on many loans, and they had been forced to sell their home to meet their most pressing obligations. Ronald O'Bryan had difficulty holding down a job. He had been employed by 21 different jobs over a 10-year period, having been fired from each of them for negligence or fraudulent behavior. He was not a good dude. You saw this coming, right? Are you coming up to work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't be hogging in the office all the time.
I'm not in your office.
This whole world's my office.
The whole world's my office. So in the fall of 1974, Ronald...
Shut up!
I was here first. You want to close that door?
Yeah, just so I don't disturb you.
That's right.
Man, I hate you.
Oh. So now it's the fall of 1974, and Ronald was on the brink of being fired again for suspicion of theft. I mean, what are you stealing from an optometrist office? Money, I guess. Not like glasses, eyes. Well, also, Ronald had taken life insurance policies out on each of the children, $10,000 each, the previous January, so almost a year before. Is that super suspicious? It was like, what, 9 months before? Whatever. But he had increased that policy on each child by $20,000 a month before Halloween. Well, investigators learned that Ronald's wife didn't know about the policies. Ronald had also called the insurance companies the morning after Timothy died to ask about the payout. It had not even been 1 day, Ronald. So the more questions that the police asked, the more suspicious Ronald seemed. Circumstantial, sure, but still suspicious. With enough evidence, police were granted a warrant to search the O'Bryans' home. Now, inside the home, they found a pocket knife with powdered candy traces on the blade, a pair of scissors with some plastic residue attached, the same plastic residue that was found on the cyanide-laced pixie sticks. It's like he didn't even try to cover it up. Ronald was arrested and taken in for questioning, like formal official questioning. As you're guessing, I'm sure, the investigation uncovered many things that were suspicious, right? So Ronald, as an optician, he was studying chemistry at Harris County Community College, and in class, he would ask his professor questions about how much poison it would take to kill certain animals and which poison was more lethal, cyanide or something else. Okay, it's chemistry class, but that's weird, you know? In August, so just a few months before Halloween, Ronald had unsuccessfully tried to get his hands on some cyanide. In September, he had called a friend who worked at Arco Chemical Company, and the two discussed the varieties and the availability of cyanide. Now, I don't know if he was working at the optometrist place when he was looking for the cyanide or trying to get it through work, because I looked it up and it doesn't seem like optometrists really have any uses for cyanide. It's typically used for, like, you know, pest control, poisoning, or sometimes used in like metal plating. They're not really doing that in a eye doctor's office. Anyways, so another witness who worked for Curtin Matheson Scientific Company, it's a chemical outlet in Houston, told police that a man wearing a doctor-like smock had come in to buy some cyanide just before Halloween, but then left when they told him that the smallest amount that you could buy was 5 pounds. Could you imagine buying a 5-pound bag of cyanide? Dude, I mean, Ronald, you can't just waltz up into a chemical company and just purchase cyanide poisoning as a private citizen. Come on. So detectives had also learned that the deep-in-debt Ronald had recently been boasting to his coworkers at Texas State Optical that his financial health would soon be making a remarkable recovery. All right, let me put on some lashes. BRB. I know what you're gonna say. It's a lot. Well, listen, I'm always making jokes about having 3 bottom lashes, so here they are. 3 bottom lashes right in the middle. So by November 5th, less than a week later, Ronald O'Bryan was formally charged with the murder of his 8-year-old son, Timothy. So Ronald, of course, entered a not guilty plea, and his defense team leaned into the idea of this mysterious candy kid killer. This person was obviously using the cover of Halloween in their evil plot to murder children. So despite the mountain of evidence, Ronald never confessed, and he maintained his innocence throughout the entire trial that began on May 5th, 1975.
Bates said O'Bryan went to one house where no one appeared to be home, and after the children had scampered ahead to the next house, O'Bryan came off the front porch carrying the pixie sticks. He gave the pixie sticks to the children and then later took them back and said he wanted to stop at his car for a moment. Bates said when O'Bryan came back into the Bates house, he returned the pixie sticks to the children. Later that night, Timothy O'Bryan died from eating a poisoned pixie stick.
The prosecution's case was that Ronald planned to kill his own children for the insurance money and to kill the other kids to make it look like somebody else did it. On June 3rd, 1975, the jury deliberated for a whole 46 minutes, and they returned a guilty verdict for 1 charge of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. An hour later, Ronald received the death penalty, execution by electric chair. I mean, hang on a second. I realize as I'm saying that it sounds like they electrocuted him that day. They didn't. I guess they tell you at the sentencing how it's gonna happen. It's intense. Should we do black lipstick? It's very spicy. Let's do it. Not long after that conviction was reached, Ronald's wife, Daneen, filed for divorce. She'd also testified against him during the trial. So Daneen and her daughter Elizabeth never saw Ronald again after the trial. As you can expect, while on death row, Ronald was despised by his fellow inmates. I mean, we've definitely covered this before. No matter what kind of terrible things land you in prison, when you hurt kids to get there, that's a non-starter. Well, Ronald continued his pursuit of appeal avenues until they were all exhausted. And by that point, death by electric chair had been ruled cruel and unusual punishment by the U.S. Supreme Court, so his sentence was updated to death by lethal injection instead. On March 31st, 1984, exactly 7 months before the 10th anniversary of Timothy's death, Ronald O'Bryan was executed by lethal injection at Texas State Penitentiary. Why can't I say penitentiary? Texas State Penitentiary at Huntsville. The former optician agreed to donate his eyes for research and for cataract transplants. Ronald O'Brien's last meal was a well-done steak, a true monster, well-done steak, disgusting, and a Boston cream pie. The crowd of demonstrators that gathered outside as the execution was carried out held signs, they threw candy, they cheered, and they even yelled, "Trick or treat," when his death was announced at 12:48 a.m. And just so you know, there has not been a Halloween candy poisoning death in the United States since Timothy O'Brien in 1974. So this great myth of Halloween candy being poisoned or tampered with is just that, it's a myth. No one has ever died besides this case, which really wasn't from Halloween candy. His dad poisoned him using his Halloween candy. But that candy tax is real. The 1986 song Candyman by Susie and the Banshees was directly inspired by this case. Oh my god, this butthole mouth is so real. So as I was sitting down to film, I reached out to Murder Apparel and asked if I could get a coupon code, and they said yes. So I'm gonna put it in the description box what the code is. I'm pretty sure it's RED20, and that will get you 20% off of your purchase at Murder Apparel. Again, this is my shirt. It's so cool. If you're a Crue Trime enthusiast like me, then you are basically a detective, okay? Basically. Check out everything that they have, because they also have some like horror movie themed things that make really good gifts or really good just things to have around. Okay, well that's it. That's the story of the Candyman, the original man, Candyman. I hope you enjoyed this story. Let me know what you think about my wild look. I don't know how you could work this into a Halloween costume look, but you know what? Wear this to the grocery store. I would. If you're interested to know any of the makeup that I used putting this look together, just check the description box. I will link my jewels, my nail color, my everything. Just check down below. Thank you so much for hanging out today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then consider subscribing to this channel before you leave today. I upload new videos here on YouTube every week, and you can follow me on all of the socials that you see here on the screen. That, I think, is it for now. I hope you are enjoying spoopy season. We've got one more costume look coming soon and some other fun things, so stay tuned and I will catch you next time in the next video. Bye! This is very spicy. Is it on my teeth? Situation. Wow, I'm really good at this. I hope you are in penitentiary. Lethal injection. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this remote control, you guys. This outer corner is not blending today. How dare you? Full size?